Hi, it's Alex from Android Central, and this is the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. It's the third generation of Samsung's big screen, half phone, half tablet device with pen input, and there's a ton of new stuff to get to grips with in terms of both hardware and software. From the outside, the Galaxy Note 3 is familiar yet different. Same basic shape and button layout as previous Notes, but thinner, lighter, with improved build quality and smaller bezels. On the front is a 5.7-inch 1080p Super AMOLED display that's among the best we've seen, incredibly bright and vivid, even more so than the Galaxy S4. And perhaps the biggest improvement over the S4 is how much easier this is to use in direct sunlight. The sides are a little flatter and grippier thanks to this new texture, although they're made of the same faux metal plastic stuff that we've seen on Samsung phones over the past year. So it's the back panel that brings the biggest change. It's no longer glossy plastic, instead it's got a matte finish with this faux leather effect and stitching around the outside. That look is designed to be reminiscent of a leather-bound notepad, and while it won't fit everyone's tastes, the physical feel is an enormous improvement. In particular, the black Note 3 we've got here has a soft touch coating which feels great. The white and pink ones have a more traditional matte plastic finish. Not too many surprises behind the battery door. You've got a 13 megapixel camera that protrudes ever so slightly, a removable 3200 mAh battery, as well as micro SIM and micro SD slots, all pretty standard stuff. Things get a bit more interesting down below though. This isn't a standard micro USB port, it's a micro USB 3.0 port, which lets you charge and transfer data faster using a computer with USB 3 support. It's worth noting that you don't have to use the funky USB 3 connector that comes with the phone though. It'll connect and charge just fine over a standard micro USB cable. Of course, it wouldn't be a Galaxy Note device without the S Pen, and there have been a few improvements in this area too. The stylus still lives in this little silo at the bottom of the phone, but you can now dock it upside down or the right way up, which makes life a little easier. In Europe, the Note's also packaged with replacement S Pen nubs and a tool for swapping them out. On the software side, the Note 3 runs the latest Android 4.3 Jelly Bean and Samsung's TouchWiz software, which is as bright and colourful as ever. The UI is smooth and fast on account of the beastly Snapdragon 800 CPU inside, which is backed up by 3 gigs of RAM. Internal storage comes in 32 and 64 gig variants in the West, and on our 32 gig model you get just over 25 gigs left for your own stuff. Unlike other Snapdragon 800 phones with big screens, the Note 3 is going to be one of the best Android gaming devices you can pick up, thanks to its powerful Adreno 330 GPU. TouchWiz itself has become even more feature-packed since we last saw it. Multitasking's been overhauled, the multi-window feature now works with a few more apps, and you can save pairs of apps for quick access. It's also possible to share content between apps by dragging and dropping. For example, you can grab photos from the gallery and send them to contacts through the Messenger app. Most of the new software stuff centers around the Air Command wheel, which pops up when you remove the S Pen, or you can bring it up at any time by pressing the button and hovering over the screen. From here you get access to some of the main pen-capable features. Action Memo lets you take actionable notes, for example jotting down a phone number or email address. Once you're done, you can highlight it and choose what you want to do, and the phone should recognize what you've written. It works pretty well most of the time, but that's going to depend on how sloppy your handwriting is. Of course, if you want to just write on the screen, you can do that too using the Screen Write function. This takes a screenshot and then lets you scribble all over it using the S Pen. Next up is Scrapbook, which is kind of an interesting feature. It lets you tag items in apps, the web, the launcher, just about anywhere, and save them to your own categorized book of content. All kinds of content is supported, and the Scrapbook feature can pick out stuff like web addresses, text and images in web pages, and YouTube videos, and it gives you a little bit more context to the stuff that you're cutting out. S-Finder is Samsung's new search app that's all about making sense of the content on your phone, including stuff in the Scrapbook. With a Google-like search bar, you can search through written notes, gallery items, web history, and other stuff. It's not as full-featured as a Google search for web browsing, but does a better job of organizing Samsung-specific stuff on the Note, and you can also drill down and arrange by time, content type, or tags. Pen Window is yet another way to multitask on the Note 3. It's Samsung's version of windowed apps, and there's a small selection of apps to choose from. First, draw the shape of the window that you want, then populate it with the app of your choice. From there, you can move it around, minimize it, maximize it, close it, or resize it. But if you do resize it, it's easier than we'd like to squash apps out of shape, so that's something to bear in mind. My Magazine is a new content aggregation app found on the Note 3. It's powered by Flipboard and brings social updates and news, as well as local content from the phone like calendar appointments, notes, and photos. So it's deeply integrated into the Note 3 software, and you can get to it by pressing the home button when you're already in the launcher, or swiping up from the bottom of the screen. Unfortunately, if you don't like it, there doesn't appear to be any way to completely turn it off. There are also a bunch of bundled apps for note-taking and drawing. S-Note returns with a new look, a ton of different templates and capabilities, and it's now a little easier to preview your notes with a new slide-down gesture to peek at documents. There's also a very comprehensive drawing app called Sketchbook, which lets you create detailed layered drawings and gives you a load of control over brushes and textures and that kind of thing. For the most part, the Galaxy Note 3's camera capabilities are about the same as the Galaxy S4's, which means it's a good all-rounder with some unique features. There are a couple of new things worth talking about though. The first is 4K video recording, and that's technically impressive, but so long as few people have 4K capable displays, you're better off recording at 1080, especially since 4K footage will quickly chew through an SD card. There's also a new photosphere-like panorama option called Surround Shot, which works just like Google's 360-degree camera. First, hold the device in place to align things, then pan around to capture your image. Surround Shot seems to be a bit more forgiving of movement and alignment issues than Photosphere, and usefully you get this little animated globe that lets you see if you're missing any tiles. After you're done, you can share Surround Shot images to Google Plus and view them as photospheres. So that's the Galaxy Note 3. A lot of new features as always, and don't forget all the Galaxy S4's features are in there too. But the new stuff that's been added makes sense and adds value for a device of this class. And we're also delighted to see Samsung finally ditch the shiny plastic and give us a high-end phone that feels really great in the hand. So we'll have a full review for you in the next week or so. Stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.